The House in the Sky, a Bahamian folktale, retold by Robert D. Souci, pictures by Will Clay. Once upon a time, in the old people's time, there were two brothers who lived near each other in shacks at the edge of the jungle. Neither brother liked to work, but Rabbi was clever and always got his family plenty of peas and yam and flour and butter. Bookie was greedy and didn't have much sense. He and his family were always hungry. Bookie's wife said, "Why don't you go and look for food? You can't give your children nothing to eat, but Rabbi always has plenty to eat."
"Well, I'm gonna ask my bro where he get all that food,"
said Bookie. That evening, he stopped Rabbi at the jungle's edge and said,
"Your family always got something to eat. I never got nothing. How is that?"
Rabbi said, "Get up early in the morning and I'll show you where to find all kind of food." Bookie said,
"All right, bro. You come at sunup."
He went home to his hungry wife and children and said,
"Tomorrow I bring you all the peas and rice and butter I can."
All night Bookie waited for dawn, but his insides were so empty they grumbled and growled and wouldn't let him sleep. He got up and said,
"This night don't look like it ever gonna end, but I can't get no food till my bro come at sunup."
Then he had the kind of idea that comes to someone with a head as empty as his belly. He went up the hills east of Rabbi's house and lit a big old bonfire. He climbed on the top of Rabbi's roof and shouted, "Caw-caw!" so his brother would think the rooster was crowing at day cleaning. Rabbi leaned out his window and said,
"Boogie, what's happening?" "Aren't you ready to go find food?"
asked Bookie.
"The sun coming up and the rooster been crowing a long time."
"I don't see no sun, just a fire on the hill," said Rabbi.
"And I don't see no rooster, but I sure hear you, bro. You lucky I'm so tired. I won't knock you down. Put out that fire and go back to bed. I get you when the sun come up for true."
Rabbi closed his shutters with a loud bang. After Bookie put out the fire and went home, he was so tired he fell asleep. He didn't even wake up when his brother came knocking at dawn. So Rabbi went into the jungle by himself. That evening, Rabbi came back with a sack full of good things to eat. When Bookie saw him, he asked,
"Why didn't you come for me at day clean?"
"I did," Rabbi said, "but you wouldn't wake up. I thought you'd rather be sleeping."
"Well, you come for me tomorrow,"
said Bookie.
"I be ready."
All night, Bookie watched for the dawn. As quick as the day was clean, he put on his hat, took the biggest sack he could find, and ran to meet his brother. Then Rabbi led him deep into the jungle. All the time, Rabbi used his machete to chop, chop, chop at the weeds and bushes. They came to a place where there was just some grass. High up was a big old house sitting on a cloud. While they were looking, the house floated down to the ground. Out of the door came 3 spirit folk, a papa, a mama, and a little girl. They were giant-sized and covered with hair. Their hands had claws, and their feet were on backward. Behind them trotted a mean-looking dog with red eyes. When the spirits went into the woods, the house rose back to the sky. Rabbi said, "There's plenty of food in that house. Those spirits got so much, they never miss any."
"How do we go up there?"
Bookie asked. "I call that house down," said his brother. Then
Rabbi sang,
Mary come down so low, Mary come down so low, Mary come down so low, till you touch the ground.
Sure enough, that big old house dropped lower and lower until it sat on the grass. But when Bookie tried to open the door, he found it locked tight.
How we gonna get in? Bookie asked.
Rabbi said,
Open, Kabaja!
and the door opened wide. The brothers went into the house, and the door slammed shut behind them. Then the house rose back up to the cloud. Inside, they found shelves and cupboards and boxes and barrels filled with food. There was rice, flour, pork, sugar, butter, coffee, peas, coconuts, bananas, star apples, sweet and hot peppers, oranges, pawpaws, and so much more. Rabbi began filling his sack with these things, but Bookie was so greedy he started eating everything he could. Pretty soon, Rabbi asked,
Bro, you ready to go?
Bookie said,
I ain't started filling my sack.
We got to go, said Rabbi, for those spirits get back. Bookie looked out of one of the little windows and said,
I don't see none of them coming. This food is so good, I got to fill my belly before I fill my spag.
Ain't you ashamed to be so greedy? Said his brother. Bookie just took one mouthful of biscuit and another of potato bread. Then he reached for sweet cakes sitting on the big old stove. They were so hot he burned his mouth, but he ate them anyway. You never did have no sense, just greediness, said Rabbi. Then he sang softly,
Mary go down so low, Mary go down so low, Mary go down so low, till you touch the ground.
When the house reached the grass, Rabbi said,
Open, Kabaja!
and the door opened. He left his brother and went home. Bookie just kept gobbling down food while the door slammed shut and the house flew back up to the cloud. When he couldn't eat any more, Bookie began to feel sleepy. He stretched out on the bed for just a nap, but he slept away most of the day. Near evening, he woke up and said,
I better fill my sack and get home for those spirits find me.
He began stuffing his bag with every bit of peas and rice and pork and what all he could find. When he couldn't cram any more into his sack, he put as much butter as he could under his hat. Suddenly, the house dropped down to the ground. Bookie realized that the spirits had come back. Quick as a wink, he threw the sack of food in a closet and hid himself under the bed. The hairy spirit folk came in with their dog, but when the house went back up in the sky, the spirits made their big old dog sit on the cloud outside the door. The mama and papa spirits put their little girl on the bed that Bookie was hiding under. The papa spirit lit a fire in the stove, and the mama cooked dinner. Then she brought a plate of food to her little girl. It smelled so good that Bookie, under the bed, got hungry all over again. He reached up his hand from behind the bed and said,
Give me some. Give me some.
The little girl spirit always did what she was told, so she gave Bookie some of her food. But this only made him want more. So he kept saying,
Give me some more. Give me some more.
Now, the girl's mama started to wonder how such a little child could eat so much. She said, That's a lot of food you're eating. It's for me, the girl said. Well, that's all right, her mama said. She gave her another plate heaped with good things to eat. The girl gave this to greedy Bookie, who kept saying,
Give me some more.
Me wants more,
the little girl said. No, you can't have room for no more, her mama cried.
It's not for me on the bed,
The girl said.
it's for me under the bed.
Oh! cried the mama and papa together. They looked under the bed and saw Bookie hiding there. So they dragged him into the kitchen and stood him alongside the big stove.
You been thieving our food?
Asked the papa. No, said Bookie. I just come in for a rest. I hid 'cause I got scared you think I'd been thieving, but I ain't got no food of yours. Now, while he was telling them this, all the butter he hid under his hat melted from the stove heat. It ran down his head and shoulders.
You been thieving my butter?
Cried the papa. He grabbed Bookie, saying to his wife,
Boil up a pan of water and we'll dash it on this thief.
But Bookie, covered with butter, twisted out of the spirit's hand. Then he ran around the old big house looking for a way out. But every time he got near the front door, he forgot the words to make it open. He kept shouting, Open Babanja! And open the Banja! Then the little girl who was watching all this said,
All you have to say is open Kabaja.
So Bookie cried, Open Kabaja! The door flew wide open, but the spirit's big old red-eyed dog was waiting outside. He chased Bookie until Bookie fell right off the edge of the cloud. Down, down Bookie fell until he landed in the top of a banana tree. Buttery and hurting, Bookie climbed down and started for home. Rabbi, sitting on his porch smoking a pipe, saw his brother. He just shook his head and said, Too greedy. When Bookie's little boy and girl saw him coming, the butter gleaming in the last rays of sunlight, they shouted, Pa's here, and he's shining with gold. But when Bookie's wife saw him, she made him climb into a tub of hot water. She scrubbed so hard to get the butter off him that he felt he might as well have stayed in the sky and let the spirits scald him. Next day, Rabbi told Bookie, Those spirits moved that house where I can't find it.
Don't matter,
Bookie said.
I've been thinking. It one bad idea to go thieving other folks' food.
Bro, this the first thinking I ever heard from you,
said Rabbi.
Maybe you're right.
Then they started growing their own food. It was hard work, but they always had enough to eat. The end. To find The House in the Sky and other books by Robert Souci, visit your local library.